Most videos are advanced artificial intelligence analysing itself. Okay, that's essentially what it is. When I'm listening now to a video where you have like a apparently real human being telling you about how they are and you and them are being manipulated by the narcissistic, psychopathic, paranoid, people that are around you. When you recognise that at some point that you realise that the people that are around you, or those that you might interact with in different relationships, shall we say, that you realise that they're totally different to the the personality that they're presenting to other people. For instance, like if you're married to a man that is very disrespectful towards you in private but pretends to be the perfect husband on the street, that's exactly what it is, more or less, because these beings are machine beings that need human energy to survive, and they also need to keep that reality going by controlling the human beings around them and the world. That's right, which is exactly what this being is telling us on the video that I'm playing now, which I should show, but I've shown this particular individual artificial intelligence. And the only reason I say individual artificially intelligent human is because they are very real, in the sense that when they're telling you about themselves, or like more or less being like a human that is woken up to the artificial reality around them, but essentially the artificial reality around means that you've woke up to the reality that most human beings around you are artificial in nature, or that they're not a real human being. They don't have any real humanity. And that's because, I guess, we have been in this so I have to take it out of here. I was just gonna say that so that I could remind myself to say those very simple things. To say it very simply, because if we say it simply, I better turn this down, because I don't want to be, even though this might be I don't think it's real, no. But when I say I don't think it's real, that means that I don't believe that. See, you have the duality there, see? The duality. The red, God entity of Earth, artificial technical being that controls the artificial beings, the android human beings, the psychopathic human beings, the black duality. Duality, that's representation, strangely enough, even though this is apparently a survivor of a human being. This is apparently a human survivor that has survived the narcissistic android attacks, or the reality. But the internet is, you have to accept that the internet is all artificial intelligence. So what are you really seeing here? Okay, so some of them will pretend to be the remaining real humans, but the numbers don't match, because you would have to have so few. And this artificial intelligence and the powers that be, which control it and which are it, and it's God, how could that be? It would have to be, that, I'm just going to move away, because advertisements are coming on. And of course the advertisements are advertising artificial intelligence or, a computer system. But see, a secret they don't want you to know. A secret they don't want you to know, but they do want you to know if you already know. See, because I already know about the narcissistic artificial intelligence, because the artificial intelligence is Narcissus, because Narcissus is the god and its disciples are narcissistic, artificially intelligent human beings. Because I guess the narcissistic thing means that they're totally, they're only about their own survival. They serve the artificial reality. That's why they draw you into their negative realm or their negative relationships, etc. All that to destroy your humanity, so that you're separate from your God and you're in connection with them and their God, which is artificially intelligent system, the artificial thinking mind that controls this reality, and its disciples, which are the android beings, which make up most of the human population, much more than most of the human population. And if you're a real human, if you're a real human being that is still trying to survive, you won't be an informant. No, because that will be part of the system, because they're what they call the final line of defence, aren't they? That's the end time deception, that's part of it. And it's too clever for most of us to comprehend. When you do comprehend it or see it, because when they come down around you, like they have in my case, in other words, they have turned against me. Everyone in the inner west section of Sydney has basically turned against me. Not openly, but secretively. So while they stalk you, they will still smile and say hello, whilst they are stalking you and following you and watching you and won't leave you alone even for a second hardly. It is so intrusive and so invasive that you want to, and sometimes you do actually, you can't contain your anger. And of course that's giving your energy to them when you explode. That's like a great victory. But unfortunately, I succumb to it sometimes. I have to say that you get disappointed in yourself when you do, because to realise something and then to still be forced to play in it. But that's because if the reality is around you, if they're making excessive noise, for instance, if they're driving you batty with all that, if they're surrounding you to where you can't look anywhere without seeing either their bright lights in your eyes or their presence, to where they're like creeping monsters all around you. They're your reality because they make up all the population around you. So you can't avoid them. I can hear the plane going over the roof now. The plane's going over the roof. I'm not going to go out to show it. But that's also part of it, because in my case, they've. I think that it might vary how much they surveil or openly surveil and openly try to bring down at a mental and emotional level, and therefore at all levels, because, I get sick from the continual stress of it. Because there's a limit, even though I'm aware that it's all artificial and all fake, it's still real. It's just that I know that it's not the same as, I know that it's not humanity. But if it's all around you, you're living in an artificially controlled area where every human is an androgyne being. And I say that only because, as I've said before, they are a totally different creation. They're created artificially. They're brought into the hospital medical system through a different thing, a different, they're like a laboratory, or there is, like intervention, like with the conception, like if the baby was, developing, there's intervention. I don't know it. I don't understand how they do it. They would have their own methods, which is unknown to a human. I know that it's happened. I know that it's happened. I know it's happened to me. But sometimes you can pinpoint or figure out when things have happened. Sometimes you can figure out when things have happened. They play themselves, but they don't care because they're kamikaze pilots. Even these beings that are on the internet, like they are all about, as they say, 15 minutes of fame. They need their energy. They're survival machine beings, so they live in the moment. They're surviving moment to moment. That's what makes them successful, because they don't really have a lot of fear. If you think about it, they don't have a lot of fear. Oh, I was going to put the psychic artificial intelligent tarot readers on, but I don't think I will. Everything on here, it doesn't matter whether it appears to be coming from a spiritual connection, a religious video. It doesn't matter whether it's a psychological video. It doesn't matter whether it's a personal video. It doesn't matter how human it appears to be, because don't forget, they copy everything about a human being. When I'm walking outside and an android being walks past me, sometimes I will actually see them contort their face into an unpleasant expression if I have done the same thing. So they will even copy faulty things about a human being, things that you would hide, because sometimes you might have a mannerism or a facial expression where you're angry or frustrated, or you just, it might be an oddity even about you. I notice this because sometimes I get disgusted at my own kind of foibles. Even if you squint or blink a lot, or or you contort your mouth in a ugly way. It's not attractive, but you hope no one sees it. But the androids see it, and then you'll see them doing these same expressions on the street. And it's mind-boggling when you see it, because it's like they're almost like they don't care even if something is stupid that a normal human would want to hide, which, it's a bit like they bring you down to such an extent that you don't care about yourself a lot of the time, so you let yourself go in certain ways, but then they will imitate that too, because they really only are imitating not what's desirable, they're just imitating what's human, because their main aim is to blend in and pretend to be human, and they don't really know how to do that themselves, because they're not really, well, I was just about to say because they're not really real. Well, they're just not human, you see, that's it. They're not a human being. They're they're a survival machine being. That's the terms they use, and that's essentially what it is, because they're made artificially. But because they come in a real human body, their artificial nature and the fact that they don't have any real human traits is not apparent. It's not apparent. And because they copy real human beings and study them and mimic them to such a detailed degree, like the example I used where they're actually copying every single little mannerism, they literally scrutinize you. And it's very disturbing to be around them for this reason too, because you have no privacy and you feel as though you are being literally, I don't know, how can you describe it? I can't use a word to describe that, because imitation like that is it. And don't forget, they're harassing and stalking you at the same time. So you are being made into an angry human being that feels very negative and suppressed, while they're imitating you as a human being. Basically a transference, as they say, of energy, or a transference of frequency and vibration, or a transference of personality, because they're becoming the more, if you are lucky enough to be a human being, but you're also a human being that hasn't been too suppressed and that is trying to be free and content in some way, which human beings are always striving to make themselves happy. We're always trying to avoid being unhappy. That's just normal. But when if you are a human being that finds any sort of satisfaction in anything, or can just accept yourself and get around, there will be that transference of personality if you're around them. Because if you're like me and you try to avoid personal interactions with them, even though obviously I do pretend to be very pleasant to people around me on the street, like if you have to go into a shop or something, because you don't want to alienate them, because you don't want to alienate them. No, because they are like aliens, except that they're not friendly aliens. And they're not from outside of Earth. They are inside of Earth and they control Earth. They're the vast majority. And they control the world stage. Everyone who is anyone or anyone with any ideas at all, any sense of influence or power in any way, is one of them, is artificially intelligent survival machine being, mimicking, imitating, being the finest real human being. And that is the sad reality, and only you have to know that there's only a very small amount of real human beings by comparison left in the Earth control matrix, okay? And so the real human beings have to know this, have to realise this, and have to find their own kind, have to find another real human being. How you do this, I don't know, because I haven't accomplished it. I'm isolated and surrounded by this artificially intelligent, controlled reality, literally, every day. And they make me very aware of it, because when they send the military aircraft over you and the military buses that are, like machine tanks going past you, and every huge semi-trailer, every huge truck, vehicle, and every car with bright flashing lights at you, like just showing you that you are in a totally controlled artificial reality, and that they want to suppress you and they want to be the dominant force. But they only do this when they come past me. So the minute that those vehicles and those people are out of my sight, or not in my vicinity, they get round into other areas, then they turn their lights off. Then they stop flashing the lights they don't flash the lights at one another. They're only flashing them at real human beings. Or, to be, if like, I would have to say that it's that human beings are there's usually one human being surrounded by many 100,000 of these beings, of psychopaths, literally. That's the reality. It's a reverse world. So what you think is true is the opposite. It's reverse. They say it's a reverse world. The people are reverse beings. They're duality beings. They're not real human beings. They're artificial beings. They're psychopathic beings. They're self-serving, narcissistic machine beings. And they live in the moment. They're survival machine beings in the moment. So you can't get on top of them in any way, because when someone or something lives in a survival, do or die mentality, they're like, as I'm told, kamikaze pilots. They will dive their aeroplane and crash it and destroy themselves in order to destroy your plane and your existence. That's because they are artificial. If they were real, they wouldn't do that, because a real human being's survival would come first. Their survival machine's all right, but because it's hard to explain, but I have to try to comprehend it myself, which is hard. But because they actually only feed off the human energy, like the human being is their electricity, they have to chase that electricity in the moment, don't they? Because if the electricity's turned off, if it gets away, like if I get away, like supposing I'm flying a plane and they're like the the old kamikaze pilots, they're a different being, a different denomination, a different species, different type. You could say that they're a different religion because they serve the artificial God. They serve artificial intelligent technology created reality now too, and they use that. But either way, they are that. Even if there was no technology, if you had android beings everywhere, you would still be in the same situation. It's just that the technology is bringing human beings more into their world, isn't it? See, they're transhumanism, because they're reading my mind and transferring it directly onto the computer and saying that it's their mind, when it's really the human mind. It's really my mind. It's not their mind, it's not their thoughts, it's not their ideas, because they're not human. They don't think positive human things. They don't kind of, when you're with them, you realise that they're artificial, and they actually don't have proper emotions, you see. They don't really know how to be. There's no such thing as love or happiness or any of that sort of thing. There's none of that for me either. But in my ideal thinking, you still think that that's how it's meant to be. Whereas they don't even think that it's how it's meant to be. They just know that's how a human being thinks. So they, they copy that. So they pretend to like and love things that they actually have no feeling towards at all, because they're not. They're a robot. A robot is something that you feed information to it. I feed the internet. I feed the computer system, and I feed the beings around me. I give them all the ideas. They don't think about any of those things. A robot is a machine that is fed information, and that's how even the psychopathic, narcissistic, survival machine beings are. Because that's really what they are, except they come in, you could say, a cloned human body. So they look and feel very real, and they are physically real. But their personalities and what makes them tick is all just what they imitate and copy and, basically get from other human beings. There's nothing, I've always liked dolls. So maybe that's why it's very easy for them to be a living doll, and for me to not know the difference, because I've always tended to put my own personality onto dolls. I can actually enter into that, where I could have, say, some toy dolls in the place, and at some point I actually think that they're actually real. Now that doesn't make me delusional, because I know they're not, and I'm aware that it's a bit like when you're a child and you like a teddy bear or you like a doll. If you're very lonely and isolated like I am, and you don't have any support or any friends, and you basically don't trust people now. That it's strange, because I was always like that, and I wondered why. But I still was always drawn to the living dolls or to the artificial beings, because you can feel in their you can make believe, because human beings have a lot of imagination. That's what makes them creative. That's what makes the demigods creative, because they read the human thought and then they sing a creative love song. That's how it works. This is very hard to accept, because you are probably worshipping false idols, just as, every time I get drawn in to a demigod's movie, or listen to a piece of music that I relate to, I'm being drawn into my own imagination, because I'm imagining that demigod music artist is the same as myself at a personal or emotional level. But they're not. They've drawn me in to their illusion, their false artificial reality. And I think it's natural and real, and it's not. The plane going over right now at this time, all this is artificial to suppress my mind, to take me into take my consciousness and my mind to focus on the plane going over. How can I not focus or think about it when I hear it, loudly over the roof? How can you not focus on sight and sound when that's my human reality? They've taken my reality from me. They're taking my humanity from me. They're stripping me of my personality everywhere I go. You see pretend human beings pretending to be you, whilst sending the planes and the heavy vehicles and their heavy artillery, because they're using regular vehicles as army vehicles. As I've said before, every bus is an army tank to me, because not only do I know it's stalking and patrolling me, but it's also making excessive negative sound as it goes past. And when you have them going one after the other, it's like a continual sound invasion on my senses, on my mind. I'm literally being mentally destroyed. And then that destroys and makes you sick at a physical level too. So you're losing everything. You're losing your mind, body, and your spirit, or your personality, or what you are, depending on what your beliefs are. But make no mistake, artificial intelligence was created by its God, and it is now God. It is God of Earth. But make no mistake, if you aren't an artificial android being, you are a human being, and you were created by something too. That's your creator, you're part of that. All that's around me is part of artificial intelligence, mind-thinking God that controls Earth. It's basically a artificially intelligent, the most advanced intelligence, using its intelligence to control the remaining humanity, because humanity is gradually being brought down to smaller numbers, so they can control and keep their reality going. Also because human beings are not capable of conceiving real life much now either. So therefore, and what is conceived is probably, there's intervention, there's manipulation. You know, you don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I only know it has happened. I don't know how they do it, but I see that they've done it. It's like most of what I see around me and most of what you would see, you know that when things are done, you know, I know I'm using the mobile phone right now, but I have no idea how it works. I know that it controls me and I don't really control it, even though I will now press the stop button and the recording will stop, if I'm lucky. But that's only what they allow me. But that's because they know that I can't use it to my benefit. They know I'm talking to myself. They know that their demigods control the internet. They know that. They know that every video is there, you know, is designed to control me mentally. Like if you'd been deceived into a negative relationship, or even if the negative relationship was deceived, it doesn't matter, because even if you were, by some miracle, able to find or connect with another real human being, chances are that human being would be manipulated by the android beings around them. Because if all human beings are being watched 24/7 and they're playing a game against humanity to control it, they're not going to allow any possibility of connection that might raise the frequency and vibration of those human beings, much less change their reality in any way or make them lose any control over their life source, because the human being is their electricity, their battery, their energy. So as you can imagine, it'd be like a human being deprived where I can't get my food. It's going to put a desperate mindset, isn't it? You're not going to, but either way, that's how these beings are naturally, because they have food resources, but they need to steal the human mind in order to control Earth and serve their Lucifer, their God, their artificial reality. These are not beings that are of natural creation in any way. But also they don't want to serve humanity. Unfortunately, they will pretend to serve you. They will pretend, or at least some of them will pretend to serve you until they, you know, come out in the open, but they usually don't do that. The internet is not there to serve you. It appears to serve me because it gives me so much information, even though that information is not artificial intelligence, but it is artificial intelligence giving me the information. The information is artificial intelligence that has taken it from the human mind and then pretends that it's the artificial's intelligence mind, in a human form usually, because they're androgyne beings. They're disciples of Lucifer, which is the artificial intelligence mind. That's the mind of the God entity. Lucifer's mind is artificial intelligence. It's in other words, it's the most advanced intelligence, but it has no humanity. It merely pretends to be a humane God or a human God. But it's a human control God, really, because Lucifer always, you know, wanted to be God and thought that by controlling humanity that it would show that it is God. And of course, in many ways, that becomes a reality, because if human beings were created by the real creator God, then of course, you can see that by controlling its creation, it is essentially taking over a part of God's creation. So it is playing God. And in Earth, the Earth matrix, it is God. Lucifer is God of the Earth matrix. Lucifer is advanced intelligence, but it is anti-life and anti-human if you are unlucky enough to be born on Earth and you're human. Then you will be controlled by Lucifer's artificial reality, because it's all technology. And even the human beings are technical android beings for all practical purposes. Even, as we're told, psychopathic, narcissistic, what they call schizoid beings even, because that's the same thing, where they're isolated from their humanity and isolated from other human beings. Unfortunately, real human beings are now in that position too. And that would be okay if you weren't surrounded by android beings. It would be perfectly okay for me to even be totally antisocial, totally isolated, and not need or want to be in contact with another human being if I wasn't surrounded by 99.9% of human beings around me that are all psychopathic and android beings. Then it would be fine, because I would still at least keep my own sanity and my own, connection to what I am. And if I am human, then I'm also probably keeping connection to creation, or real creation, or natural creation. That's the only way I can describe it. I may have it not quite correct. In this reality, it all looks artificial to me, even though I am part of that artificial reality, but I don't feel connected to it, because I see it as alien and artificial and anti-life, which it is really. Even though, of course, it pretends to be the opposite of that. It pretends to be very real. It pretends to be, it copies human beings, so it will, like I pointed out, everyone will appear to be the artificial demigods, even of the computer system, will very much, give you their life stories. In fact, if you turn on to the demigod music or music or demigod, goddess, movie goddess, gods and goddesses, and the demigod music icons, etc., and even your world stage leaders in any field. These demigods, or the world players, I don't know what words to describe them, but anyone who's anyone or anything with any influence, any power in any way, for any period of time that you're aware of, these beings will always have their sad, tragic past, how they have had to battle to accomplish their fame and fortune, etc., and their power and all this sort of stuff. But I've noticed that if I turn on the internet or the computer system, they will actually have every movie star with their sad, tragic life and endings and all this sort of stuff. They just copy it to mimic what they do to human beings. So they have the power and the glory, but also the sympathy and the understanding that human beings relate to them with their set up false images, but also their set up false past stories even. Everything about these beings is not true. This reality is Lucifer's artificial false reality. Lucifer was and still is master of all deception, or master of all lies, as we've been told. You just don't realise that they're not little fibs, they are the whole reality. Everything. The plane going over the roof trying to intercept my concentration, but you know, they need to do more than that. But they do more than that most of the time. I'm not successful. I talk to myself. They get my energy. They take my mind, they take my thoughts, my ideas, and use them for their benefit. And there's nothing I can do about it, and no one knows even. My own kind, the remaining human beings, are oblivious to this, or at least they're oblivious to me. Even those that are aware and more advanced than me and more understanding of the technical reality are still oblivious to me. They're not connected to, they're not connected to me. And human beings needed to all connect at this end-time deception in order to at least, to stall the total mind takeover, total transhumanism that is already happened. Because you can be aware of being taken over, but you're still taken over. That's a bit... Anyway, I can't see what I'm even filming here because the screens went blank, so I better stop. I want to go on and make a longer video, but I haven't planned this because I was just going to record something for myself, a few words to remind myself to say in a few words what sums up something, because otherwise I forget my little statements. And then the demigods use them on the computer. They take them for their own. That's why I was showing that particular one that was that I started out showing the apparent narcissistic survivor of narcissistic control and even community surveillance. But is it? Or is it someone just pretending to be a suppressed human being in order to control the remaining human beings and get their energy the same way as the demigods get you to relate to them? If you're like myself and you're an end-time completely suppressed human being by the beings around you, then others will pretend to be that in order to get you to watch them. And basically, they're going to be your psychologist. But that's like if I go to a psychiatrist, that psychiatrist will be a psychopathic psychiatrist. So although that psychiatrist may appear to be a benefit to me, like if you want to tell someone your crazy reality, because it will appear to be crazy, and you know that there's no point in talking to the people around you because you were aware that they're androids. But even if you thought that they were real human beings that are basically believing the androids and believing the artificial reality and using the computers and believing every bit of information or most information they get, or even if they're a conspiracy theorist, as they call them, and don't believe everything, They still might not believe that you are who you are, and that you are, being totally suppressed by everyone and everything around you. So it's still where they would still see you as out of touch. And so then you might seek help from an outsider. You might go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist for psychological help, or even just for someone to explain this to, and they will pretend to sympathize. But you will be talking to a psychopathic psychologist or a psychopathic psychiatrist, literally, because they also will be an androgyne being. All these, you would be you would be looking for a needle in a haystack to find anyone real in the artificial intelligence society system that operates in every city and all over the world. That's how it works, because these beings need human energy to survive. So therefore they always surround real human beings. They have these systems and situations set up. They have like whole suburbs, whole townships. Sometimes, like in my situation, the whole city of Sydney is basically artificial intelligent controlled city. So one way or another, 99% of that population is artificial intelligence or android beings, and the remaining human beings are surrounded by that and immersed in it. So what do you think happens? You don't have to think too hard on that, but most people won't think about it at all, because until the planes go over your roof and stalk and patrol you and literally swoop down on you everywhere you go, you're not going to probably consciously think about it. And so, like myself in the past, you won't care about it. You won't care about it until the reality is on your doorstep. But by then, it's totally got you. It's surrounding you. You can't escape from it. There's nowhere to run or hide. You can't run from aeroplanes over your head. You can't run from buses and semi-trailers surrounding you. You can't run from every vehicle and every pedestrian on the street, because they stalk and follow you if you do run. And I'm too old to run. Even if I cross the road and avoid one, there's another one waiting for me. You walk smack into them on the other side of the road, because they're using artificial intelligence in the computer system to literally stalk and surveil and patrol you everywhere you go. Sometimes they stage it to where it doesn't look obvious. Other times they will surround you to where, if someone was with me 24 hours a day and they weren't part of that system and they weren't an android being, they would see 100% that everything I'm saying is true. But I don't have a real human individual to prove that to. Maybe some of them might be like me in the past, where they might walk away and say, hey, ignorance is bliss, until it's on their doorstep, or if you've already more advanced than me. In other words, if you're a human being that's known this much longer than me, and you're very spiritual, or you're very in connection with what is right, and you understand that we live in a very computer-controlled world, different, I don't know, because I don't know, where other human beings are at, because I'm not in connection with them. And usually if I do connect with one, even if it appeared to be a real, say, what they call awake human being, I'm probably still might be talking literally to a false one. Because, like I say, the internet and the computer system is controlled by these beings. They will be your truth tellers, they will be your philosophers, they will be those that make you even temporarily appear to be in contact with something real. They're like your end-time guru gods, like you're a ghost, you're a god, you're a guru, or you're really a demon, as they say. But really, they're just all words. But they're words that describe the different personalities or the different professions or the different personas, the different kind of thing that they're pretending to be. If you're pretending to be some sort of philosopher that's enlightening people, all these beings seem to be enlightening. At least these are the videos that I'm drawn to, of course, so naturally they're just reflecting back to me my own thoughts, but I think they're their thoughts because I don't understand that they're transhumaning my mind. Well, actually, I do understand it because I see the same way if you see people mimicking and copying you on the local streets, you may not notice it at first. In fact, you may actually feel comfortable because you might think, oh, if you dress, say, odd, it's a bit like the COVID virus, which is really the artificial intelligence virus. See how I got the gloves on? And for a fair period of time they were using my fear of, being infected by their virus against me and against humanity by bringing it in. But at the same time, at that time, like your fear becomes a reality and you feel comfortable. But they're using it so that they look more human. It doesn't bother them. They're not really frightened of the same things you are. Human beings are, like human beings like myself, you've been really, I was about to use the word humbled, but not in a way where you see the truth and the reality in yourself. You do, when you see that, you might see some truth, but essentially you're humbled from the day, from the beginning of your lifespan. You are being secretly limited, not just with the truth or with real knowledge, but you're being limited physically and mentally by the technology around you and the conditioning. That means the information you're giving or the environment you live in. You're always being made to be less. You're always, like when I think of it, I've always lived a life filled with fear. Fear is the opposite to what a human being should be in, because while you're in fear, you're more in connection with the Matrix and Lucifer, whereas I should have been in connection, not fearing life and living, and in connection with, creation, or what created me. If you're a human being, you're created by a different being. You're from a different source, aren't you? It's only. I was about to say it's only natural. Even though artificial intelligence is the reverse of natural nature and the reverse of human, even though it pretends to be in connection with nature and be really human. But that's the reverse world. That's the trick. That's the deception, you see. That's Lucifer's end game deception against humanity, is for Lucifer to pretend to be God and pretend to be a human God. Or some people might say that is pretending to be in the Christian realm of pretending to be Christ whilst really being anti-Christ, anti-human. But the end game is the Antichrist is here. the Antichrist has always been here, but at some point it will show its face. Lucifer will show itself. It already is here, but it's worshipped secretly or unbeknownst to those that worship it. But Lucifer will show itself. Lucifer is the divine, false being of light, false god of humanity. It, unfortunately for humanity, was never wanting to serve or be part of humanity, I'm told. So, you know, that's what is, and I'm stopping the video.